the course of human history, there have been coercive systems of labor. With slavery and feudalism, we both had coercive systems of exploitation where people were forced to perform labor, one through the direct ownership of the people, and the other through a more indirect form of feudal obligation and ties. Capitalism today has inherited that same fundamental idea, but greatly transformed it. Now, the coercion is starvation and deprivation. No one is forcing you to do anything, but if you don't have a job that pays for your rent or buys you food, you are most likely not long for this world. So I was watching the streamer Vaush, and I saw this point being articulated.
Oh yeah, Destiny debated Michael Albert about participatory economics. I never really got behind participatory economics as a concept. Participatory economics. I feel like the only real difficult question with like capitalism versus socialism is how much you believe humans are willing to do difficult, unfulfilling work for like with how few incentives, you know? That's the difficult part. Participatory economics is an economic system based participatory decision-making, primary economic mechanism. Decision-making is proportional to the impact of person or group. If socialist decentralized planned economy involving content ownership of the means of production, it is a proposed alternative to contemporary capitalism with centralized planning. With theorist Michael Albert, who Destiny debated. Anarchic economic vision, yeah. Do you have an argument for jobs nobody wants to do? The problem is there's never been a point in history. There's never been a point in history where humans have done jobs they didn't want to do without coercion, to my knowledge. Because if they want to do them, they do them. And if they did them, that's because they wanted to do them. Without coercion, there's always something. You either have pay, which that's the common one these days, and back in ye olden days, it was you would fucking die if you didn't do this. So back when humans lived in tribal societies, there were probably lots of jobs nobody wanted to do, but it didn't matter because if that job didn't get done, everyone would fucking die. Why not have a job lottery for jobs no one wants to do so the burden is spread out? That's an option, but then that wouldn't be participatory. That would be assigned by like a state bureaucracy. And then you get like some weird who will clean the sewers and socialism genuine question. Well, there are a lot of potential theories, you know. The real question is how many jobs are there that people just don't want to do? And also, how do you get people to do those jobs? Like, let's be real, guys. It is possible that if we were to adopt some participatory economic model, guys, how many people right now are trying to make their living being streamers or Twitter artists, okay? If it weren't for the fact that a lot of these people have to get part-time jobs to support themselves or they fucking starve to death, don't you think there's a possibility that a lot of people in society, like maybe too many people, would all funnel into like fun creative professions? I do think that there's some degree of coercion implicit to filling roles in a society, because at the end of the day, if nobody's cleaning the sewers, you have backed up sewers. The sewers need to be cleaned. I have a fucking right to live in a city that doesn't have backed up sewers. Somebody has to do it. It has to be done. Maybe you could draw lots, but then you have another question. Doesn't that make everything less efficient? Okay, guys, robots is a cheat answer, okay? Obviously, if we could automate these systems, we would. But don't be ridiculous, okay? We can't automate every unfulfilling job. If we can use technology to make these jobs easier and better since there's no profit incentive, it doesn't change the fact that they have to be done. Okay, guys, automation is irrelevant to this question because there are always going to be jobs people don't want to do, okay? At least for now. Just, like, chill, okay? Right now, across the world, there are literally billions of people who do work that is necessary to society to some function that they don't really enjoy doing, okay? You guys are doing the capitalist answer. Just innovate. We'll innovate our way out of the problem. What about climate change? Oh, well, we'll innovate. People will invent a solution, okay? Stop. It's a problem that we need to deal with, okay? The solution is difficult. Higher pay, literally the only answer. Well, then you keep a market economy if you have pay, or you get rid of capital and you have a secondary luxury good market that you get using pay that you get with unfulfilling jobs. Meaning that if you do jobs people generally don't want to do, you get money that you can't use to reinvest, but you can use it to purchase commodities.
I thought to myself that I would make a video this video as a response, but really more of an addendum to the argument being made here, and more importantly, to demonstrate that the question of socially necessary labor is fundamental to leftism and can't really be ignored. Okay, so to recap the argument, human society depends on labor. If people aren't growing food, mining minerals, or sewing clothes, the thing that we know as society grinds to a halt. Society needs labor to survive, and we need society to survive. Well, most of us anyway. I'm sure there's some of you out there who would be able to live in the wilderness entirely on your own, but that definitely couldn't be me. The problem with capitalism, amongst others, is that capitalism concentrates the wealth produced by people like workers into the hands of a small group of people who we call the capitalists. In a socialist system, the idea would be to prevent this accumulation of capital and distribute the production of society as evenly and fairly as possible. No one should go hungry or be without a home, because we definitely do have the ability to provide these things. It's just that capitalism and the free market tend to distribute them extremely poorly. However, even in a socialist society, where a lot of unnecessary labor is removed, there are still going to be jobs that are necessary but unpleasant. Cleaning the sewers, mining for minerals. Without people doing these things, society would collapse. Even if the labor isn't strictly speaking necessary, it can still be valuable with regards to making society better. For example, the laborious process of animating TV shows. Most of that labor is farmed out to animation farms in Asia, to be done by fairly low-paid workers. It's certainly not pleasant labor, but it is a part of the production process. Similarly for making video games, a lot of that stuff is just laborious and tedious. In capitalism, these jobs get done through some manner of coercive force. There are entire classes of people in society who we call the poor or lower classes, and these people typically do these jobs. They do them because they are usually denied access to better jobs and still need money to survive. So the question then is, how would a socialist society still get these unpleasant jobs done, and could it get it done without coercion? Now, I definitely don't have the answer to this question, but I want to engage in a thought experiment regarding the solution that was pushed to Vaush during the segment, namely automation. We've all seen Star Trek and its fully automated luxury gay space communism, so let us imagine then that we are thinking about a hypothetical future where capitalism is abolished and some kind of socialist system has taken its place. We want to use automation to do the jobs that are unpleasant. Well, the first problem is achieving the automation in the first place. We can't just snap our fingers and have fully ready automated farming systems, for example. People still have to mine minerals to make metals and grow food for others to eat while we are making the transition towards automation. So we've already hit a stumbling block. If we grant that automation will solve the problem in the future, we still have to get to a transitionary period where automation is insufficient to solve the problem right now, and thus we must still figure out how to get the unpleasant work done, while transitioning towards a future where it will be done, hypothetically, by automation. From here, there are only two possible outcomes. The first is that there are simply some unpleasant jobs that will still need to be done that can't be automated away. No matter what, there is some immutable line that we can't overcome with automation, and the best we can hope to do is reduce the amount of unpleasant jobs, but never fully eliminate them. If that's the case, then we will still need some system in society to figure out how to allocate those unpleasant jobs. They can't be left undone, or society will suffer for their lack. Perhaps at this point it might be small enough that a number of volunteers could manage these jobs out of their own natural inclinations, but I don't really find that to be a satisfactory answer. The second outcome is more interesting, namely that there is no limit to what could be automated. For every task that we imagine no human readily wants to do, there is some kind of way of building a machine, or dare I say a robot, that could do it. In this case, we only need to contend with the unpleasant labor for the transitionary period until such time as the actual miners are replaced with mechanical ones. Case closed? Well, not so fast. Something that has to be emphasized here is that automation tasks are not all made equal. It's one thing to make a sewer system that is capable of detecting when one of its pipes is blocked. It's entirely another to make a machine that is capable of finding and removing that blockage. What I'm getting at here is that our ability to automate tasks away most likely must correspond with an increase in the intelligence and design of the machines doing the work that we don't want to do. And therein is the problem. You see, the function of slavery was to take human beings and force them to devote the great portion of their daily life to labor in service of another. But slaves are inefficient in a large degree. Humans don't enjoy their bondage. They need to sleep, they need to eat. Machines are great because they are tools that can accomplish much, but ask for very little in return. They don't complain or even question the work that they do. They just do it. But as we, in our hypothetical, increase the intelligence of our machines to do more and more of our tasks, we necessarily bring them further and further away from being tools, and closer to becoming workers themselves. As socialists, I imagine we are all against slavery, but as those machines gain more and more intelligence, our ability to force them to do our unpleasant labor looks less and less like a human using a tool, and more like a human using a slave. Workers should own the means of production, but what happens when the means of production is capable of thinking for itself? Would a socialist society be okay with slavery of this kind? I should hope not. If it isn't, if intelligent machines are entitled to the freedoms and rights that we afford to human beings, then we are back to square one, aren't we? Society still has unpleasant labor that needs doing, but now we just have more complicated workers in order to divide the tasks amongst. We still have to figure out some method of allocating the labor in a way that is ideally less coercive than capitalism and ideally fair and equitable. I don't know what the method will be, but I hope that I have demonstrated here with this simple argument that we as socialists can't kick this can down the road. Automation can't fundamentally save us from this problem, because it's a social problem, not really a technical one. We have to save ourselves.